All right, I'm Brittany Knepper. I'm with Nerds and Beyond.
Hi, Brittany.
Hi, how you doing today?
Great. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good.
Excellent.
Um, let's get into it.
Love
Uh,
it. Love it. You embarrassed
so, oh,
me.
sorry, one more time.
I'm wasting your time by pointing out that There Will Be Blood poster is great in the back.
Yes, thank you very much.
I'll zip it. Sorry. Yeah.
That was great. Thank you for noticing. Um, so you directed a music video that went viral, and then you did Hardcore Henry. How big of a leap was that for you? And what did you learn in the process that then brought you to Nobody?
Well, every film and every day on set is a learning experience. If you're doing it correctly, you're gonna come out better than you were going in. So Hardcore was not something that Hardcore Henry was not the movie that ever thought I'd be doing. I thought of myself as a guy, the scripts I was working on before that were, much more character focused, less gimmicky to say the least, but it was a lot of fun. And I knew that I wanted to do that because there was an opportunity to do something crazy and something for a 15-year-old me. I imagine if I was 15, I saw Hardcore Henry, I would go crazy for it. And many people did, which, it's a true cult movie, which I'm very proud of. But I knew the next one had to be a proper film, a traditional, where the camera knows what it's doing. It's not running around crazy. Uh, there's a lot of actors and actors who know what they're doing. There's a story to be told. There's conflicts that are inner and outer, and obviously we'll have action. Just so there's action because people love action. I love to shoot action, but I can't wait for the next one just because I learned so much on this one again, and I hope the next one teaches me more, and I'll keep getting better, and I hope I'll never be satisfied and be like, yeah, now I know what I'm doing. I always, I within reason, I second guess myself. I got to make sure I rethink things and have the opportunity to do so. And after you do one movie and you see how the pacing works, you see how the editing works, you see how the audience reaction kind of works, you start to understand it more. You bring that on to the next project. But Nobody, I knew I knew what the pacing should feel like. I knew what the story we're telling. I knew what the character needed to be. It was just much more. I mean, what is professionalism? Professionalism is getting the same results with less effort or less sort of movement. And that's how with this movie, I was able to spread out all my concentration time, allotted to the right elements. Sorry, it's such a long-winded answer to a simple question, but
No,
yeah.
that's great. I love it. I love going on tangents. How did you come to be attached to Nobody? What was it, the script that drew you, or what was that process?
I got a script. It's a Bob Odenkirk action movie written by Derek Kolstad, and I was like, okay, I'm very interested already. I read it, and as soon as I read it, by the end of the first read through, it just clicked what the movie's about. And I said I'd like to talk to Bob if Bob would like to talk to me. And we got in a call with Bob, and I pitched him my understanding of what the film is, and I caught him off guard because that's not what they thought it's about. But and I said, look, the movie is about a guy who's been squashing his addiction to violence for a long time, and he's itching to go back. And that's what makes it special because all the movies of this ilk about a hitman going back to his previous life, it's always he's forced to. It's always they steal his dog, they steal his daughter, etc., or kill his dog, steal his daughter. But with this one, Hutch Mansell, Bob's character, he is really itching for an excuse, and he is his own worst enemy, and he makes everything that happens in the film is due to him making the wrong choices because he's driven by the wrong things, and that's what made it so special. And when I pitched that to Bob, I think most importantly, he liked the concept, but he understood that I looked much deeper than, oh, how are we going to have a cool shot with him shooting people, which could have been a fun movie too. I would have watched that as well. But I knew that if I was to get an opportunity to make an American movie, I want to make sure that it's as good as we can possibly get it with what we're given. And Bob had as much of a big stake in this as I did. It's his first leading action role. For me, it's my first American film. For the DP, it's his first studio film. For the production design, it's his first studio film. There's a lot of people who really want to make sure we, ace it as hard as we can. So it really is the right productive environment to create something special.
Totally. You're also a musician, right? And how does your understanding of rhythm and music influence your approach to the action sequences and the pacing of the film overall?
I think it really helps to understand the contrasts or highlight the understanding of contrast, I'd rather say. There's overall pacing is action scenes are musicals in a way. They really are. Even if there's no music, it's still the rhythm of everything is is key to getting the right. You don't want to overstay your welcome. You want to get out, much like a song. There's nothing worse than a great song goes on for 5 minutes because you don't really want to listen to it again when it's done. You got to leave the audience wanting more. And I love that feeling. You know, when you finish a song, you're listening to a song and you're like, okay, I'll listen to it one more time, and one more time, and one more time. And the law of diminishing returns somehow occasionally avoids working with music. And if you can bring a little bit of that into film where you want to rewatch your movie and you leave the audience wanting more, I think you're doing a right job. And that's, I think, is uh, the biggest lesson music has taught me in regards to filmmaking.
And I was also thinking tone is so important in a movie like this, because you're balancing that action and some of the darkness, but also there's so much humor, especially at the end. Where do you make sure that the tone works? Do you look at it straight from the beginning with the script, or is it more of an on-set process, or do you focus on it in the edit?
I I'm not a fan of figuring out the movie in the edit, and some people do, and they do a great job with it. So I don't want to knock anybody else, but with me, I like to know exactly what we're going to get as we're shooting, so we don't improvise too much. Now, some improvisation is great, and always actor. I love when actors ad lib and come up with things on the spot. I'm very open. I'm a true collaborator, I believe, and I think if you ask somebody, they'll probably approve that the truth of that. But there's I think the key is you read the script, you understand the whole of it. I can, when at a certain point before shooting, you don't need the script. I can just sit down, close my eyes, and just watch the entire movie in my head. And there's some things that will kind of stick out. Maybe that's a little bit too out. That feels a little bit weird. That's a little unexpected in the wrong way. You piece it together. Then on set, you try if you have time, and usually you have time because an extra take of a person talking doesn't cost much. You ask to go for a lighter version, a slightly more comedic version, a slightly darker version. And then if you're wrong in the way you imagine it all in the edit, you can move it a little bit and fine tune it to the overall piece. Because like you said, tone is very important. And with this movie, Bob and I kept talking about how we want to avoid the comedy of it. We want to make sure people have, they laugh and they have chuckles and they smile, but you already have that you don't need a huge joke to have a huge reaction in a movie like this, because the violence, by contrast, elevates the humor, and the other way around as well. So it's a lot of thinking, a lot of talking, and then a lot of doing, much like everything else in this plan.
So obviously Bob came sort of attached to the project already, but when you were reading the script, did any of the other actors like jump out at you like, oh, I'd love to get Connie, or I'd love to get Christopher Lloyd or the RZA, or how was that? What was the casting process like for bringing those guys in?
I think there's a lot of discussion. I think originally the Harry, who's RZA's character, was written as not a half brother, but as a brother. And I think at a certain point, Bob and Derek and I were just chatting while we were working on things, and we said, you know what, wouldn't it be great if we make his brother anything other than white? Let's go for an Asian American. Let's go for a Black American. Let's do anything. Let's do anything just to make it different and exciting and something unexpected for each of us. Because we always imagined originally what the pieces were, and originally the villains were South Korean. And I remember saying, you know what, I don't want to do South Koreans because apart from watching a ton of South Korean movies, I really don't understand the culture, and I'm going to do a bad job with it and disrespect people. I can't do that. Let's make them Russians and let's kill a bunch of Russians, but we'll make them authentic. And then I can go back home and people will still love the movie. So it was a lot of just, again, a lot of discussions and thinking about, I love assembling actors boards where I just start printing people out and just sticking them onto the wall and seeing what works. And I think when we had the composition of Christopher Lloyd, Bob's his son, RZA's his son, and Alexei Serebryakov is the villain, it just clicked. That's it. And we have Connie Nielsen, who's a very believable, as we wanted to cast age appropriate for the wife as well, but we didn't want to do the typical Hollywood, 55-year-old male star and a 25-year-old starlet as the wife. It's fine, and it works, but isn't it great to be able to make it more, if we're going for a slightly more realistic and grounded movie, let's make the cast fit and not try to, yeah. So it was just a lot of back and forth and discussions until we settled on what we did. And that really took like 3 weeks to do the whole cast. I think we did a great job. Producers were on it. So
Awesome. And if I have time for one more, I was just curious, because Bob obviously got into great shape for this. How many of his stunts or fight scenes was he involved in all of them, or
I'd say there's he did 100% of everything except, so 100% is not quite right. I'd say 99.9. There's two things that we couldn't have him do for insurance purposes. It just couldn't work. He could have done it. He was trained enough to do it. I don't want to say which, but there's only two. Basically, there is no There is no unnecessary stunt doubles. There, he can do all those things. A year and a half of practice. The man can do 15 pull-ups. Okay, that's yeah. He right off the bat, Bob said he's going to do it correctly. He's not going to phone it in. He's going to work his ass off. And because the film got delayed by a year, for a year, we really worked hard, and he had the opportunity to get into that fantastic shape and really, get the action beats worked out.
Awesome. Well, that was it for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Brittany.
Have a good day.